Hi everyone, Dr. Remy from Posturesize. Today we're going to be going over programming personal training with your clients in an essential 5-step formula. If you ever wanted to learn how to build the perfect routine to avoid injury, maximize gains, and improve your personal training outcomes, this is a key video in helping your learning. Hope you enjoy. Programming the right personal training routine for your client is an art, and a lot of personal trainers aren't sure how to start out, or when they hit plateaus and problems and issues with their clients, they're not sure how to adjust and modify the routines. So to help you in the art of programming, we're going to talk about boiling down the often daunting and confusing topic of personal training programming into 5 essential steps. Those 5 essential steps are: 1, identifying what your client's goals are in terms of their fitness goals. 2, what their joint stability or biomechanical issues are. You need to know that because that's essential to maximize force production, endurance, and power output and avoid injury. 3, your exercise selection. That's going to be changing over the course of your personal training relationship with the client. 4, the mode of exercise, volume, intensity, frequency, types of contraction, etc. We're going to be getting into that. And 5, the progression of your personal training. Most clients need progression. Very few times you have a client that doesn't need to progress. The idea is whether you're training for endurance, power, strength. Sometimes there's a balance and flexibility plateau that you're going to hit with people. Occasionally you're going to have strength in one exercise that you're going to hit. But overall, you want to keep your client progressing. That keeps your relationship fresh, that keeps them interested, that keeps your goals progressing, that helps you become the best personal trainer you can be. So let's first discuss goals. When you sit down with your personal training client at the beginning or at intervals throughout your relationship with them, you need to define very clearly what their goals are. And that includes a time range. You want to achieve an X% of body fat loss, you want to achieve an X% strength, you want to be able to participate in a functional activity, sport, something at home that you're not able to do. Defining these goals are essential because it gives you a target to shoot for, and it allows you to start planning out your cycles of training over a period of time to reach those goals. Be concerned that your client's goals sometimes are not realistic in the time frame, and you being a fitness professional, it's your job to and responsibility to inform them that your goal of losing 10% body fat in the next 6 months is probably nearly impossible. You have to bring them down to reality sometimes. It's good that they have that overall long-range goal, but sometimes you have to bring them back into a reasonable time frame of when they can achieve that actual goal. Now, sometimes clients are going to come to you with very specific goals. They'll already know they want to return to their specific sport by an X period of time. They want to be able to bench press a certain amount of weight. They want to be able to increase their time in their endurance runs so they can do better in their last marathon. They want to return to being able to go in the yard and lift and do things around the garden. It all depends what their specific goals are, how you're going to start organizing your routine to help them reach those goals. At other times, clients are going to be very unsure about their goals. They know they want to get into shape, they know they want to lose weight, they'd like to get a little stronger, but helping them to determine what they actually want to achieve in terms of flexibility goals, strength goals, power goals, stabilization, coordination, avoiding injury, improving cardiovascular fitness, losing an X% of fat, decreasing blood sugar levels, increasing explosiveness for sport, improving speed work. There's a lot of different goals that you can go over, and many times if you put them out in a list, allowing them to pick and choose what their top priorities are going to help you organize your routine and your program and your personal training. The second essential step in designing a personal training routine for your client is the joint stability part of the formula. This is an essential part that many trainers often miss, and it can be the big making or breaking point of your entire relationship and your personal training routine. Most clients, whether they're young, middle-aged, or very old, have some type of posture, muscle imbalance, joint stability issue, biomechanical problem where their bodies aren't working at their optimal efficiency. As a result of this, you wind up with 2 distinct problems. Number 1, soft tissues can become overstressed and often lead to injury. When a client gets injured, many times you may lose them as a client. That's not good for them and their overall fitness goals. It's not good for you and your business. Number 2, Abnormal mechanics in the body and decreased joint stabilization affects the power production or the force production you can do during your workout. It also affects endurance time because there's an optimal mechanics for any type of human movement or exercise. And if you're not working in your specific optimal mechanics, you're going to be decreasing your amount to produce force or to continue to maintain force in the long run. So both injury prevention and actual performance of your personal training exercises, which then relates to the outcome of what you want to achieve with your goals, are centered around making sure you have an idea of what those mechanical issues are, what joint stability problems they have, what posture and movement tendencies they have, being able to identify and correct those in the early part of your routine or the early part of your program with your personal training clients is essential before you actually move on to grunt work with your exercises and really pushing them. Because if they have suboptimal mechanics at the beginning, they're only going to exhibit those same mechanical distortions as you get resistance heavier, as you get intensity, as you get volume and duration increases in your training. Those mechanical mistakes are going to come out more and more, and it's going to result in decreased performance, decreased results, whatever your intended results are with endurance, power, strength, etc., and it's going to open the door for injury. Having taught personal training and personal trainers and advanced concepts in rehab and corrective exercises for over 30 years, I can tell you that most personal trainers have a very poor understanding of body mechanics, both the assessment of them and the correction. We're going to go over later in the video a number of ideas of how you can improve your knowledge of how to assess biomechanics and how to correct them with your personal training clients. Speaking of a kinetic chain, along with choosing exercise selection, you want to keep in mind the fourth facet of choosing exercises and designing a great personal training program for your clients. And this fourth facet of the formula is the modes of exercise. You want to choose how you're going to do the exercise. Just because we have an exercise doesn't mean we don't have different permutations or modifications of how to do it. We can change modes in any exercise to include the rep range, how many reps we're going to be doing. Different reps have different effects. The type of contraction, is it going to be an isometric contraction, an eccentric, a lengthening or lowering contraction, or focus on concentrics, or all three of those. For instance, hypertrophy training, if you have someone that wants to gain muscle, a great formula is to use a 4-second eccentric or lowering contraction, pausing for a second, and then using a 0 to 2 second contraction in concentric, raising the weight, and another pause at the top. So changing these different modes are going to have different effects. You need to know how to match them for your clients' needs and what their goals are, and of course their abilities and limitations. Other modes include the amount of resistance we're going to be using. Now, for instance, if we have hypertrophy training, we want to work with rep ranges of 5 to 12, where they pretty much stay within 5 to 12 before they're at 80 to 90% failure. They can't do anymore. That's going to use weights that use about 75 to 87% of their one repetition maximum, or their maximal amount of force that they can produce. If we have a client that wants general strength training, that's going to be more in the range of 4 to 6 reps we're going to be performing our exercises, no matter what type of exercise it is. And that's going to be using about 85 to 90% of their one rep max. Clients that need advanced strength training, powerlifting type training, we're going to be using much heavier weights, weights that are 90% to 100% of the one rep max, and that's going to have us in about the 1 to 3 rep range for the bulk of our training. It's not that all of our training is going to be in that mode, but the bulk of it is going to be centered there because that's the net stimulus you need to make to the body to create the adaptation to have that powerlifting or that advanced strength outcome in your conditioning response with the client. Speed work, we're going to be using less than 10% of the one rep max. Plyometric, explosiveness, jumping type training, we're going to be using less than 20% of the one rep max. So keeping in mind the amount of resistance is very important. And finally, like explosive power, we could be using 40 to 60% of the one rep max. So the amount of resistance is just as important as the type of contraction in choosing the mode or how you're going to perform this exercise. A bench press can be done with very light weight, very heavy weight, different speeds, different types of contractions. They all have different effects. People with tendon injuries many times respond to lighter weights and long eccentric or lowering contractions. So again, matching, which is the central component in this 5-step formula, matching the type of contraction, the mode of exercise, to what the client needs, what their goals are, what their abilities, what their injuries, what their issues are, is very important. Now, different modes also include strength training, oxygen consumption, VO2 max considerations, flexibility. Do you want to perform exercises for flexibility? Is that an issue? Balance of the client, coordination. Some clients have particular movement patterns that are very uncoordinated. You need to work on establishing proper coordination. That's going to help them with whatever goal they have. You're going to be talking about the frequency, the volume, the intensity, the work-rest ratio of your exercises. These are all modes. So modes are very important to consider when designing a personal training routine for your client, because the mode of the exercise based on the frequency, based on the volume, based on the intensity are going to have different outcomes for the client. Some frequency of workouts can be done quite often. For instance, forearm work, ab work can be done almost every day. Cardio work can be done almost every day. Balance, flexibility work can be done multiple times in one day. Other things like strength training, hypertrophy training, you're going to stimulate the same muscle probably once every 2 to 3 to 4 days. If you're working for power training, let's say powerlifting, you're only going to hit that 90 to 100% workout range once or twice a week. You're going to at least allow 3 to 4 to 5 to even 7 days to go by before you hit that. Volume of training is important. You can't take a beginner and give them a huge volume of training. Volume generally increases the better condition they get, because you need more volume to evoke the natural response of the body to whatever stimulus you have, whether it be strength, whether it be power training. You want to consider the relationship between volume and frequency. If you have a lot of volume, it's hard to have the intensity of that volume high at all times, because remember, your stimulus, your idea behind matching these exercises and modes and training frequencies, how many days a week they're going to be working out, is all based on the idea that you want to maximize the idea of providing a stimulus so they can get the effect to reach their goals, but allow enough recuperation time from that stimulus in the workout, so the next workout you're not working from a deficit. You're not still working when they're recuperating still or repairing from that first stimulus. If you do, that's going to create overtraining and more likely to cause injury. So you need to know how much time it takes for a stimulus to be repaired in the body before you give the next workout. Part of that is autoregulation, is determining with a client how they're responding to a workout. If you're not familiar with autoregulation, one of the things we can use is called RPE, or rate of perceived exertion. That includes having the client describe subjectively how tough the exercise is. A 10 would be maximal effort, a 0 would be no effort. A 9 would be I have 1 repetition, or 90% of my effort has been exerted. And then using fatigue percents in your training, whether you're talking about strength training, powerlifting training, even endurance or cardio training, where you're going to back off the maximal effort by an X percent, let's say it's a 10%, and then you're going to use a submaximal training range for that. So for instance, if we're doing bench press and we could get 10 reps, and the goal is to use 10 rep range of training. If we do 10 reps with 100 pounds, and we want to work at a 10% fatigue level, then we're going to drop the weight to 90 pounds, and we're going to work until it feels like 100 pounds again. And that's going to limit our volume for the day, because each time a personal training client trains with you, their reparative cycle and where they are in repair, other factors, how much sleep did they have, how much psychological stress is in their body, how much good nutrition or bad nutrition or alcohol that they had. All these things are going to complicate the reparative process. So knowing how to limit the volume, knowing how to limit the intensity, knowing how to limit the frequency of your exercises, having a light day versus a heavy day, is all based on autoregulation. Having the client describe, hey, I feel great, I can do more, or I can't do more. It only took me 2 sets to get to that 100-pound feeling again at 10 reps in the example we just gave, versus another day it may take them 8 sets to get there. You're going to have more volume on that 8-set day because the client has more energy. They've repaired better from their previous workout. So thinking about the modes of exercise, how you're going to choose volume, frequency, intensity, what type of contractions you're going to use, are all based on not only the client's abilities, their mechanical issues, their goals, their limitations, but also their reparative process. The 5th step to consider when designing a workout program for your personal training client is progression. Where are they right now? Where have they been? What have they done? And where do they want to go? Many times you're going to have clients that come in and say, you know what, I've been in great shape my whole life, but I haven't done anything in the last couple of months. Well, It's great that they've been in great shape, but if they think they're going to enter your training right there after not training for 2 to 3 months, their body has gone into a state of deconditioning. They're not going to be able to keep up with their previous idea of fitness levels. Even though they think they can, they won't be able to, and many times they'll cause injury if they try to push themselves. So using a steady state of progression, the overall theme with planning progression is to use a slow and steady state. Everyone wants, when they're into personal training, to push their clients so the clients feel like they had a great workout. Every personal trainer wants to make sure that their clients are progressing. It's a great way to improve your outcomes with your clients. It's a great way to improve your referrals and grow your business because clients are getting results. However, the best results come from, whether you're talking about endurance training, strength training, hypertrophy training, VO2 max consumption, is slow and steady rates of improvement. If you keep that in mind and avoid trying to push your client too hard, too fast, it's many times a better long-term goal. And discuss this with your client. Remind them that their ultimate goal by X amount of time is this. If we try to reach there too early, we're going to overtrain or injure and we're going to come down. If we use a steady state of progression and accept that sometimes the body's going to have days where you can't get enough out of your workout, you're going to be still in a reparative process, recuperating from your last stimulus or other factors in your lifestyle. Those days just need to be accepted. You're going to hit a slight plateau or a decrease, but then with enough rest or altered training, perhaps exercises or modes of exercises that the client isn't used to on those days to give them a different experience in terms of their stimulus to their overall physical conditioning. Sometimes a slight detour from your usual amount of training helps to get over that plateau so you can get back onto your normal modes and types of exercises to help in the progression. I like to train my trainers that I work with, and when I educate them in my various seminars and workshops and classes, to keep in mind no more than a 5% increase from your previous workout. And that includes whether you're talking about isometric endurance, power, strength training. Many times as they go on, beginners are going to be able to do much faster progressions than conditioned and trained athletes as they get further down the line in the continuum of training. But if you keep in mind that no more than 5% at the beginning, that's a nice safe zone to work with clients in from their previous workout. And as they get on, sometimes you're going to be fighting to try to get a 0.5% increase, and that's okay. But try to keep them in a slow and gradual progression, absorbing plateaus with the realization that they do happen, absorbing sometimes you're going to have training days where they just don't have it, they're fatigued, and having them accept that it's okay to have those days, but when we look at your training cycles, your mesocycles, your macrocycles, if you're improving from bi-weekly to bi-weekly, monthly to monthly, then we're achieving our goals and improving our progression. So keeping these 5 elementary facets or steps in the essential formula for designing your personal training workout for your client and improving your programming skills is essential. Always remember you want to match these various 5 components with each other. You want to be able to match what your client goals are, what their exercise selection should be, what their mode of exercise is best used to accomplish their goals, what their mechanical issues are, what joint stability, movement tendency issues are going to complicate your goals and your outcomes through injuries or decreased performance, and finally, what their abilities are, where they are right now in their level of conditioning, and targeting where you want to go. You need to take in mind their level of conditioning presently, any past injuries or current injuries. You want to learn how to train around those. You want to talk about or think about recuperation with the client. If they have a great desire to push themselves heavily, but they don't have enough recuperation time, they're going to see it themselves. Their goals and progression are not going to be there. They need to learn how to recuperate better, whether that's active recuperation with an assortment of variety of exercises and different training modes to allow their body to have a different stimulus, or whether it's passive rest, where they actually need to sleep more, eat more, have more time off, have less frequency of the workouts or decrease volume or intensity. And finally, their time. You want to be able to consider the time frame when designing or implementing a personal training program. Many personal trainers are up against the wall when it comes to trying to meet the client's goals in a specific not only period of time, because the client wants to achieve too much too soon, or with the time that the client has to work out. If you have a client that wants to reach a certain goal and they can only get together once a week, it's going to be very tough to reach that goal. So making sure that you are honest with your client, you explain to them as a fitness professional what reality is in terms of reaching these goals, goes a long way to setting the client's psychological perspective up from the beginning so they're better able to follow through with your training recommendations and get the most out of your personal training program. So remember, when designing a personal training program for your client, it's important to keep these 5 steps of the essential formula in mind. Adhering to this formula will help you to avoid many mistakes that most personal trainers make. As an artist, you want to always come up with a specific routine, a specific progression using specific modes, selection of exercises, and ways of training that client that are unique for their individual case. The biggest mistake that most personal trainers make, in my experience in 30 years of personal training, not only personal trainers, but also personal training clients, is that most personal trainers have a tendency to fit all their clients into their way of training, their formula or their box of training skills. It's much more important to gain a variety of knowledge of skills and ways of training so you can match and meet all the different varieties of needs that clients are going to come in with. Every personal training workout, every personal training mesocycle, macro cycle, progression should all be tailor fit to that client and what they need. That's going to ensure your best results. That's going to improve your client outcomes. That's going to increase your referrals and grow your business. If you'd like any more information on personal training, program, and any of the topics we talked about today, feel free to subscribe to our channel. We've got a lot of great videos out there. If you're looking to help me share this valuable information with other personal trainers, give me a thumbs up below. Questions or comments, write in. I'll be delighted to try to answer them. And remember, if you're looking for a great course to improve your knowledge on all of these topics, including how to deal with injured clients, clients with pains and injuries, how to prevent them, how to maximize sports performance through good biomechanics, check out our essential crash course for personal trainers available at the posturesize.com website. It goes over program design, it goes over exercise modifications, it goes over assessing clients' biomechanics, their abilities, what they can do, what they can't do. We go over diagnostic conditions like the names of injuries such as bursitis, tendonitis, knee meniscus problems, disc herniation, stenosis, all kinds of medical conditions, and how to train clients through those problems, how to train them around them so they don't hurt themselves and still maximize their fitness goals. More than just pains and injuries, the Essential Crash Course equips you as a trainer to use all the topics we discussed here in a more in-depth area of knowledge. I hope this video on personal training your clients and program design helps you in your personal training business.